Good afternoon, everyone. At least it's afternoon for me. I apologize for the delay in posting this. I fell behind, but we're caught up now. Forgive me, I'm leaving April 30th on there so that when I go back and look at this in the future, I can pretend I did finish all 4 of these parts in a month. So welcome to the final part of the series on Autism Acceptance Month, specifically Autism Spectrum Disorder. And I'm going to walk you through the final part that I had planned, which is advocacy and allies. Specifically, last week, I'm going to pretend for the audience it was last week, really it was 3 weeks ago, that in the last video, we talked about what can you do differently in interactions with, an autistic individual, very much colored towards my own perspective. And then this focus is going to be on how can you behave a little more differently with others in order to help be an ally to me and, perhaps other autistics, hopefully. So that'll be the focus for today. So the first question that comes up a lot is what should we call you? And I get, asked, do you prefer is autistic? Do you have autism? Are you high functioning, mildly autistic? Are you a person with Asperger's? Are you on the spectrum? And I always find this question really strange because I prefer James. Oh, that's a terrible joke. That's genuinely awful. So I am going to answer the question on terminology. But first, when you've all recovered from the absolute hilariousness that was my joke, I do want to take a second to level set on something that is actually really important. And that is this. And so first of all, huge Mark Twain fan, his body of work, his life, and in some incredible quotes that continue along the way. It's never wrong to do the right thing. And now that might seem like a real hard pivot and an awkward segue from my, again, incredible joke. When it comes to terminology, when it comes to, what we're doing here, you need to step into this appreciating that you are actively trying to expand your knowledge and improve equity and inclusion. Like you're here for that. I'm allowed to give you a hard time, but you are not allowed to beat yourself up for trying to do the right thing and making a few mistakes along the way. So I will talk about terminology. I will talk about general preferences. I will talk about, how to approach some of these things, but you have to understand, you have to truly appreciate this. I am granting you full permission in advance to forgive yourself for not being flawless at this. I am autistic, and I promise you, I have done tremendous amount of research trying to understand what the consensus is. And often there is no consensus. And I'll talk about that too. So as you approach this, don't worry that you are going to get it wrong, that you are going to make a mistake, that you're going to offend me or someone else, because I promise we've been dealing our whole lives with people who don't give a damn and aren't trying at all. You making an honest effort is never going to offend anyone. It is never wrong to do the right thing. So I really want to lay that in there thick because I think it's so important. So first of all, thank you for getting this far and thank you for trying. So that does bring us back to this question. And I know the parallels to my hilarious joke you're going to struggle with, but try and stay focused. So I blitzed through all of that because the reality is it's highly individualized. The only thing that matters is that you treat me or anyone else with respect. I personally, I have a few preferences, but in general, I don't give a damn. I don't care what you call me. I care how you treat me. And so rather than try to give you some complex formulae for what the appropriate terminology and words are, I would instead urge you to just try and be respectful. And the easiest way to be respectful, if you are ignorant, if you don't know what I prefer, if you don't know what someone else prefers, just ask us. We'll tell you. And that goes with every walk of life, not just autism. It's everywhere. If you don't know how someone prefers to be communicated with, you just ask. And so I just ask that you continue thinking about it from that perspective when it comes to us, because I just don't think going into a deep lecture on the nature of the terminology is really going to benefit either of us here. So, and the part 2 I want to cover here is appropriate ways to intervene on my behalf. And this one's really important to me, asking others to be an ally. This is me explicitly telling you, like, I would value this. So this is that individualized. This is very much towards the areas that I tend to skew with issues that I wish people would step in. I wish when some of these things happen to me, someone would step in and do this. And so I'll give these examples. And I as a general rule, I loathe draining slides, but I wanted to have these written very directly here so that you can lean on them later should you ever wish to. And I want to be known for communicating directly and honestly. I want to be known for that. And so people shouldn't assume meaning. So the example I put here is, if I say something and you, being you, hear from someone else, wow, James was like, I wonder if he meant this. Like, this is a side conversation between the two of you that they seem to be interpreting, something I said. You can be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, James is very direct. He rarely means more than what he says. He tends to be pretty literal. But if you're not sure, I know he appreciates clarifying questions, and he'd be happy to spend the time to make sure you're on the same page. So you don't have to, stand to my defense. You don't have to say, oh, I'm a swell guy. You don't have to do any of that. I'm just asking that if you find out that someone is perhaps misunderstanding me, just ask them to seek clarification, because I'm always happy to do that. And I would hate for someone to be misunderstanding me. I want to be respected for the different perspective I bring to the table. I've bumped into this quite a number of times as well, where there'll be a conversation and I see things differently. I see a pattern where others don't, and I'll ask a question. I'll be like, well, have we considered it from this angle? And the room will turn and look at me like I'm an alien. If what I'm saying doesn't make sense, don't just assume I'm wrong. I might be, for the record. I often am. I'm as human as anyone else. My different perspective does not mean better perspective. It just means different. So sometimes if this happens, ask me to clarify. If I say something that I seem to think is serious and you don't understand why it's relevant, just ask me. Tell me I'm not sure I follow. Can you clarify why that's relevant? Or, where are you going with this? Just let me know that I'm not being clear, and I will come at it from a different direction. And I always appreciate that opportunity for clarification. You're going to sense a consistent theme on these. And then lastly, this is a really big one for me. I want to be remembered for my ability to make others laugh. I never want to offend. I never mean to offend. And so the big ask here, and this one's last, not because it's least important, it's actually most important. It's last because I wanted to cement in your brain. Don't let rumors snowball. There's no greater allyship you can do for an individual that can't tell if they've offended someone than cutting off the rumor before it builds momentum. And you can just, so if someone comes to you and says, wow, James said this, it was really rude. Anyone who's worked with me for a long time knows I am never trying to be rude. I might be rude. I might say inappropriate things. So don't brush off and say, oh, no, James is fine. I might have said something inappropriate, but I promise you I didn't mean to. And so it's simply saying, it's what I have here on the screen. I've never seen him try to cause offense. You should let James know, because I know he'd really appreciate you being direct, that direct feedback, and he'd appreciate that honesty and the opportunity to clear the air, because it's just that. I'm not asking you to come to my defense without clarification, without understanding, or blindly and put yourself out there. I appreciate that makes, some risk averse folks, cautious, and that's okay. I just don't want to see things, snowball, because it causes tremendous amount of reputational damage to me when misinterpretations just fester. And so it's really, really valuable. If you want to be an ally, don't let rumors snowball. Don't do this chitter chatter in the background that just causes problems. And again, that extends, well beyond me. Let's be careful of what kind of trouble we're causing just by continuing conversations instead of asking for clarification. Because remember, I may have publicly disclosed that I'm autistic. Many people haven't, and we should be treating everyone with this same courtesy. Which brings us to what? So normally I would say, what's next here? And so instead, what I have here is a paraphrased quote, one of my favorites from one of my favorite books. And that's, what's the hardest step a person can take? And the answer is the next one. You've all, taken the first step, the second step, the third step, but the next step, this is, how do you apply this? And not only that, but in life in general, we are never done learning. The hardest step is always recognizing that we have more to learn. There's more we can do. We can keep growing as people. And I'm so grateful for you for coming this far. And if you've made it this far, I feel pretty confident you're going to, keep walking in the direction of making things better for equity, for inclusion, your own personal, and professional knowledge, and keep moving forward. That's the only way to go. So again, thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. This has been a very interesting experiment in my own comfort, discussing and disclosing these things. I'm definitely sweating right now, but I can't tell you how grateful I am for the responses I've gotten from those that I've spoken to, from the manner and everything, the discussions I've been able to have with folks. I've had folks come to me and let me know that this has really helped them, answer some own questions for themselves. And I'm really, really glad that this has been helpful, because that was the entire point of this from the beginning. So while this may be the end of my series, should you, watch this and ever have questions, comments, concerns, or want to continue discussion, I am not done with this. I will be taking the next step. I will be continuing to look for other opportunities to engage on this and other topics that are important to me. And I would absolutely be happy to be a part of that conversation with anyone who wishes to. So everyone, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.